Hey, Mark here with a special episode. I caught up with Chris Diagnosticated McLeod of Full Force fame to talk about all things Skybound, where we started with IDW's loss of the license to where we are today with the very latest news of what's come out about this new Skybound shared Energon universe. This was recorded as a live stream on YouTube, so you can find the video over there on YouTube. But I think this holds up pretty well as an audio-only podcast as well. So while you're missing out on some of the visuals that we share, a lot of it is just chat. So you're not missing out on too much. So without further ado, here's that chat that I had with Chris.
Hello and welcome to this very special Full Force and Talking Joe crossover event, Talking Force Live, with me, Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80, and of course, Talking Joe's very own Mark Seddon. We will be breaking down all the recent comic news surrounding Image, Skybound, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals, and A Real American Hero. Spoilers ahead, so make sure to switch off if you don't want to know about the current news regarding all of these topics, and specifically Void Rivals, which we'll be talking about. Mark, thank you for joining me, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. It's the Talking Force semi-yearly. Hooray!
We have a Talking Force crossover every...
I think the last one was with Chief about 4 years ago.
It was. Talking Force special.
Recycling 2. The jingle. That's great.
Yeah, of course I am.
That's what I'd do.
I'm not going to do another one. Speaking of jingles, we've got a cracking video of yours to play a little bit later on. We'll wedge that in, obviously, throughout our historical explanation of what the heck has been going on in the world of G.I. Joe comics, buddy. It's been crazy, hasn't it?
It's been all over the place this week. It's been mad.
It's just something new every single 5 minutes. There's another article. There's another bit of news. Just when we think we know everything, there's another thing that comes out, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots to get into. We will be covering all of it. I can tell you that by experience because I've had to put the slideshow together. We're going to be covering everything. So loads of people in the comments already. Hello, people. Hope everyone is having a great day already. What is it? Friday. I know I should be working on the weekly, really. So that's going to be late tonight, probably.
Just keep on going.
Yeah, just keep.
It's all Chris, 24/7. Yeah,
I'll just stay on. Also, a big shout out to Brian Sauer for our wonderful graphics. He came through again with the Comics Burst style. I love it, and I love our Comic Sans lettering for our names as well. Anyway, yeah, cool. All right, well, I suppose we might as well just get stuck into this. We've got loads to talk about, so let's go into a little transition, and you can listen to that lovely music. Where to sports indeed, Footloose. Right then.
Where to, Chris?
We'll start from the beginning, I guess, which was like the year 1373 with G.I. Joe comics. This has been going on for ages, hasn't it? And obviously it started with that little rumor of the license ending, didn't it?
Yeah, back in, do you remember 2021?
No.
When, do you remember fidget spinners? Do you remember when Minecraft was cool? Do you remember Fortnite?
It was top of the charts.
Was it the Cheeky Girls? So back in 2021, we found out that IDW. We found out that the Sugar Babes were reforming. No, we found out that IDW were losing their license in 2022 potentially. So it was out there as a rumor initially in Bleeding Cool, and you know, setting hairs racing. What is going on? And that was the first we heard of it.
Everyone was freaking out. I remember it was talk from the con, wasn't it? There was the San Diego Comic Convention, and that was all everyone was talking about. was that, oh yeah, IDW are going to lose the Transformers and the G.I. Joe and all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of one of those things where I felt like it was pretty obvious from day one. Like we all, like, it wasn't one of those things where it was like, oh, this might happen. I think everyone was just on board straight away with like, oh, this is like,
this is a thing. We're just waiting for the official announcement to drop.
It didn't feel like one of those like random rumors that just comes out and you just kind of, like, well, next week that'll be forgotten because something else will be happening. This definitely felt like a big deal, and there was definitely, where there was smoke, there's fire, and that's what it felt like here, didn't it? Basically.
Yes, IDW was on fire.
Literally. Everything's fine. Sorry. Look, thanks so much, guys, from all the comments already. Like, if you have any questions, by all means, go nuts, and we'll stop every now and again for to talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah, throw anything you want in the comments, and we'll chat about it. Kevin Johnson's already said, well, that's a spoiler alert for our historical referencing here, Kevin, so I won't
we've not got to that point in history yet, so
yeah, we're still in 2021. I'm still using the fidget spinner. Mark has just finished an absolute session on Fortnite, so let's move. So that was the first thing, and then, but this was almost like the next day. I felt like Skybound was being thrown around as the new publisher, almost
like a couple of weeks later, and it's like, IDW is losing the license, but the reason that they'd be losing the license is because someone else has been part of a bidding process essentially to try and win it, and they'll be putting together, they'll have reached out to the industry, or all of the big players. Are you interested in pitching for this? And they're not going to whip it away from a partner that has actually been doing a decent job without knowing, having a good idea of where the new home is.
Absolutely.
So by this point, they would have had a very good idea of where it was going, even if there was some, dotting of T's and crossing of I's.
J's.
Yeah. And Skybound, under the Image umbrella, was very much the forerunner for that rumor, and I think it was quite tightly controlled. A lot of industry players didn't know for sure where it was going, but obviously a few key people in the know. This is all it takes for it to be out there, and the likes of Hollywood Reporter, putting it as a key part of their reporting as IDW were losing the license. Put it in a very mainstream and sort of credible.
Totally. It kind of almost solidified it at that point. I think that's what the kind of like put everyone's kind of like, track was like, okay, well, it's going to Skybound then, basically. Or at least they're going to be the front runners. And they kind of were. They were every comics burst I did to update something or whatever it might be, it was always Skybound, the front runners for, I think I said that about 63 times over a 2-year span, or however long it blooming was. But it was definitely like happening, and it felt like it was happening. And then obviously, beyond that, IDW officially did lose the G.I. Joe Transformers license, and it was at the end of 2022, and that was reported in Hollywood Reporter again, and it was like official at this point, and it was just a matter. Then it felt like an age between finding out IDW were losing the license and then finding out who the next person was. And obviously it made a lot of sense that we're not going to find out before IDW lose the license.
Yeah.
That would have been not very classy. It would have been a little bit inappropriate. So at least...
this was January 22 now that this confirmation actually came through from Hollywood Reporter. And I think even IDW were putting out their own press releases. And that was confirming that essentially they had it until the end of the year.
Yeah.
So at this point, we still had a year's worth of storytelling and comics and some, potentially big event books happening still. So the machine keeps on running. They're still out there producing comics. And even after the announcement came, we got like the likes of Saturday Morning Adventures.
Yes.
We had the 40th anniversary special. We had
that was so good. I love Saturday Morning Adventures. Like, that was one of my favorite things. I loved it so much. It was such a good comic. I hope that kind of continues eventually. Like, I hope they do something like that, like going forward. Yeah.
And yeah, so they had basically, the timeline was they can get to 300 by the end of their license, but they have to keep on hitting that monthly deadline and getting a book out every single month, which isn't something that they had been doing. They had been, slipping, month here, a month there quite frequently over the last couple of years. So I imagine that's a big part of why they got in SL Gallant on the art, because he's, quick, good, reliable, and a known quantity. So if anyone was going to be able to get them on a monthly schedule, getting out that monthly book so that they can hit 300 as their last issue.
What number was it at the start of the year? Do you remember? Was it like 270 something? It felt like it probably would have been higher than that.
It would have been a bit under. Yeah, it was about 10 less, I think. So you'd been at about 290.
289, 290. I feel like, okay. That makes sense thinking about it. Yeah, that kind of slots into place. I remember thinking, because when did they reveal that Saturday Morning Adventures was happening? Was that was in this year, wasn't it? That was this 2022 year.
This was 2022, like Q2, Yeah, sort of mid-ish.
It felt like, we're getting this is good, but that's it though, right? Because it's not happening after.
But then we got to the end of it, and I think they finished in maybe I don't know, maybe early summer, late spring or something. And I was like, but they must have time to just fit in a little bit more before you get to the end of the year. You might be able to get just a little bit more, but
totally. Anyway, so IDW lost the license. Grant, that's a great question, and I'll try and see if I can remember that you posted that, or post it again when we get to that point in the timeline, because I want to talk about, obviously we're going to be talking about that aspect. So Grant Mounier, Ruby Time Prime, just either copy and paste that later on when we get there.
Press your star button.
Oh, can I do that? Oh yeah, okay, cool. I've done it. Thanks. You're you see, I've been doing this for how long, and you're like such a genius at StreamYard. I love it. Okay, thank you, Grant. I've starred that, so I'll be coming back to that question later. I'm going to use that from now on. I can't believe I've never used that in the past. I am an absolute noob. Anyway, then we are starting to get this kind of because everyone was like thinking about A Real American Hero, and does it continue? Because obviously it started again at IDW after a big dip, like a big chunk of time at the end of the run, but it did continue into a different publisher. So the opportunity, I think, was there for everyone to expect that it would go over to Skybound, and I think that was even mentioned in early, technically not official reporting and stuff like that A Real American Hero would continue. But then Larry posted these, didn't he, and kind of worried us a little bit, because there was no real, evidence that it was continuing.
Yes, I mean, his words speak for themselves, but he was clearly of the opinion that nothing was firm enough for him to think at that point in mid 2022 that it was clear enough in his mind that it would be continuing beyond 300. So at that point in time, he was like, "Yep, I've just got to assume that it's ending. I've not, if I've not got a contract in front of me saying that we want you to continue, keep on doing it, or even." Even in that first post, he's saying nobody's contacted me. If taking that on face value, it's getting quite a ways in at that point. He's going to need to write that issue 300 before very long, and not knowing if there's anything beyond it. He can only think that got to prepare for the worst kind of thing, and assume that that's going to be the last issue.
I think there would have been a bit of an explosion if this was because clearly Larry was up for doing it and continuing it.
Yeah.
So I think I think we would have been understanding, I think, as a fandom, if Larry wanted to kind of finish there and be like,
if he wanted to just retire.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he wanted to just go, that's going to be it for G.I. Joe Real American Hero. Thanks for the ride, whatever, totally. And I think the fandom would have been totally fine with that. But because it was a case of Larry putting this out and kind of going, no one's contacted me, I want to do it, yada, yada, yada. It's like, they better do it. So yeah, I'm glad they did. Well, spoiler alert. Anyway, then it all changed a little bit. And Larry started to tease the involvement in post-IDW plans after G.I. Joe 300. And that's when we started to get more information about this. And I think this kind of, again, like we said, put everyone's minds at ease, didn't it, really?
Yeah, it was like, phew. Thank goodness we don't. You know, if nothing else happens, we've got Larry. We've got that continuing story of Real American Hero, because for most comic readers, and I'm sure he's got people who love him more, people who love some of the other stories more, but for a heck of a lot of us, the Larry story is G.I. Joe comics, and while the other stories can be fun, that is what you want to come back to. That's the real continuity where
that's
things
the real quiz.
Yeah, that's where things have actual stakes. If a character dies, well, let's say they're not coming back, but
yes, spoiler alert.
It's that continuity. It's that single writer starting at issue 1 and writing the best part of 300 issues, well, more than 300 issues with all the other series.
There's got to be a number of records to be broken here by Larry, hasn't there? Like this continuity that he has been the sole beneficiary, like the sole person that literally has been on it the entire time. There must be other long running comics, like from Marvel and from DC and stuff, where a writer has kind of continued a continuity. But I can't think of any off the top of my head that have done it like
there
Larry.
are very, very few that get up anywhere near issue 300. Today's modern comics market is sort of writing to trade, writing to arcs, and maybe you're going to fill out a longer form story, which is going to be a couple of hardbacks. Get yourself to an omnibus. But very rarely going beyond that. A couple of the exceptions are Walking Dead, which was about 150 issues. Invincible, which was about 150, I think, in the end.
Was it really? A bit
under. Wow. Yeah, it's like 3. Where have I put them? I think it's 3.
You should be able to see them.
3 compendiums of about 50 issues each.
I was going to say, if there's that many, you should be able to see them immediately. In your
I've got these beautiful sort of concise compendium editions. So Kurtman is a big fan of long form storytelling, and very few people do it apart from it. You've got Spawn, but that isn't like a single creator. That's true.
That's mixed around,
mixed out. You've got Eric Larson on Savage Dragon, which is an incredibly long running book, and then you had like Cerebus, Dave Sim doing a huge run on that. And then you kind of really got to start searching for other examples. Like there was a writer who wrote Sergeant Rock, something like that, for a very, very long time. Can't remember his name off my head. There's been like very long Wonder Woman runs, but just having one solid story and one almost uninterrupted numbering of that story as well. It's just
it's mind-boggling.
It's like it barely it doesn't exist out of just scrabbling for a small handful of examples. So it's an incredible thing, and just for no other reason than that, keep it going.
Just keep the run going, guys. Grant, this is again, there are going to be spoilers, by the way, guys, in this news burst, because we're talking about things that we've read in either the first issue of Void Rivals, which we'll get to later, but also things like there's actual information in the descriptions of each of the comics that give away a little bit of a spoiler. One of them I'm going to put on screen now. So if you don't want any spoilers, I'm just saying it again. Switch off at the wall, disappear, or I just looking at the viewer count just drop to like 0, like that. Grant,
until you what have we spoiled? Oh no, right. Spoilers in the comments, right? Yes, okay.
Right. So Grant has said, also, what are your guys' thoughts on IDW, A Real American Hero, killing Snake Eyes and then bringing him back? Do you think they shouldn't have killed him off to begin with? First of all, let's face it, killing that character off is going to garner a lot of publicity. And I think one of those things was to generate like a real shock value buzz kind of thing. The funny thing is, Snake Eyes he was killed off in it wasn't the Devil's Due. Was it the Devil's Due era?
Chuck Dixon verse killed him off.
Yeah, when he kind of gets revived by the Red Ninjas, like in a zombie kind of style. Do you remember that? They kind of do like a ritual and everything on the and kind of bring him back to life as like this like evil Snake Eyes kind of thing. But anyway, that so it's not like the first time we've gone through this with Snake Eyes, but I was a little surprised that they did it. And also, I have to say that in comics, no one ever really dies, do they, Mark? I mean, like it's the thing. Like it is literally just to get, I suppose, some discussion going, to get a few more eyes, a few more sales, that kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah, like
you used to have in like two sort of cornerstones of dead means dead. Well, dead never means dead in comic, apart from Uncle Ben in Spider-Man,
right,
and Bucky in Captain America, right. Which then fell away with Winter Soldier. So you're just left with Uncle Ben, and I think he's probably technically come back a few times as a zombie.
Well, yeah, because now they're operating in the multiverse.
You can kill him and bring him back as many times as you like. Yeah,
anything, you can do anything. So it's like, again, I don't have a problem with that. Genuinely, Gwen Stacy is the only character that stayed dead for the longest at Adam S. That's a good shout.
Well, she came back as well.
Yeah, she has. Forms. Of course, she has recently. So anyway, I think they. I don't know if they should have done. I didn't like the way he was killed off. I thought it was a pretty. I don't know. I wasn't really into that. Even though obviously the Red Shadows were involved, which was awesome, I wasn't really into the thing. And I know obviously there's a lot of there's a caveat here, because the whole, if you haven't read it, the whole giant robot thing, it was supposed to be like Larry was going to be crossing over G.I. Joe and Transformers, which seems to be like a massive like theme at the moment, doesn't it? But he was going to be doing that. That fell through because it was being done elsewhere by Hasbro and everything. So he had to kind of switch gears a little bit. Pun intended, by the way. Gears, the Transformer. So they had to do that, and then obviously it kind of made the story a little bit crazy and not very good. And I didn't like the whole dying thing either. It was a little bit okay. But anyway,
you could give me a couple of hours to talk about this, but I'll say it in a nutshell. So this is back in like issue 213 or so. We had a how do I get out of this nutshell? I'm
glad you saw what I was doing there. Thank you.
back in 2000, issue 213 or so, we had the death of Snake Eyes arc, a big thing, and I think part of it was Larry thinking he's not going to stay on the book for forever, and if anyone, if he isn't on the book, someone's going to kill Snake Eyes. So it may as well be him, and he can write the story that he wants to write about his death. But
yeah,
the issue a little bit was the execution. There was a couple of things that I think irked me and other listeners, readers, which was that the way that Snake Eyes died wasn't a particularly exciting way. It was sort of like diving after a grenade and then dying off panel. And sort of, it's a rule of comics is don't die off panel, because the unspoken rule of comics is if you die off panel, you're not really dead. You're going to come back.
Exactly.
And then the other thing that sort of just seemed a bit strange was that Sean, the Snake Eyes replacement, Throwdown,
suffered the exact same injuries.
And then was immediately, in the same issue the original Snake Eyes died, put on the Snake Eyes mask and became Snake Eyes. It was just, too soon. And then
too soon, dude. Too soon.
Too soon. And then the kind of the following stories, I think there just wasn't enough then that differentiated Throwdown Snake Eyes from original Snake Eyes, that to in a lot of cases it could have just been the same character and it wouldn't really have mattered. So it just sort of needed just a bit of finessing of what does that long-term story of a new Snake Eyes actually.
Absolutely.
And then we've got him brought back in this is spoiler territory. Spoiler territory.
Thank you for the question, Grant. We appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say IDW killed Snake Eyes. No, cool. Right, so I'm quickly looking at all the comments I've missed during that time. Okay, cool. Boom. Right, so now here we go. Sorry, I'm just making sure there weren't any kind of like major ones I wanted to kind of jump onto quickly there. So anyway, so we had this scenario where we kind of know now that Larry is working on future issues going forward for that. And we'll come back to this particular story in the timeline at the end, actually, which is nice.
I'm just seeing the comments there. Spoilers. Maybe we should have a ticker running along the bottom that just says spoilers, everybody.
There's literally, I've said it at the beginning. It's written in the text. There are spoilers in this. If you don't want to watch it, just watch it later after you've read every comic
everything. Yeah. All the comics, both in the past and in the future. Yeah.
Amazing. Anyway, yes. So then obviously Larry continued this at was it FarleyCon in August 2022, where he was talking about working up to 300. Or actually, it was after this, wasn't it? He was talking about 301 in this particular video, and then after that, well, so far we know that he's worked up until 304. So we were like confident at this point that this is happening. This is great. We're going to get more comics. But then we had almost like a little bit of a reveal of the other side of things, because we get into this. So first off, what the hell is Void Rivals? I hear you say, because everyone was kind of saying this, wasn't it? It was like all like a case of like, oh, this is new. What's this going to be about? And this is interesting. This is from the team of Oblivion Song, which I actually read, by the way. I was quite into Oblivion Song. And that's Kirkman, Lorenzo De Felici, and who else was on it? Mateus Lopez as well, and Russ Wooten, as in the letterer. So there was it was that team that was working on this particular comic. So obviously there's going to be a lot of buzz because Oblivion Song was pretty dope. I kind of remember that being really
new Kirkman. Kirkman's just about the biggest writer in comics these days.
Yeah,
anything he does, it's going to have it's going to have a stamp of that prestige, that sort of track record. So it's going to generate some level of excitement in of itself. But then this text that they're including in their solicits about the upcoming series will introduce an all-new shared universe with a surprise that readers will have to wait to uncover until the debut issue arrives in comic book shops on June 14th, 2023, including also a surprise variant cover that they wouldn't reveal until the day of it drops. So there's creating a bit of mystery, particularly with all of this background of us thinking, could it be the home of Transformers and G.I. Joe?
I wasn't thinking that at that point because I didn't even know this existed prior to the Bleeding Cool reveal, which was this. Now, obviously, Bleeding Cool did an article where they revealed that the Transformers and the G.I. Joe brands were going to be at Image Skybound, and it was going to mix in with this Void Rivals situation. And then shortly after that, we got this kind of like this promotional poster kind of appeared. That was this was like a couple of days before. This was like on the Monday, I want to say, kind of popped up, and obviously with the comic coming out on the Wednesday, and so this popped out on Monday or around that time, and it showed Jetfire holding the characters from the Void Rivals covers, right? So it was like, oh, so Void Rivals is going to include Transformers and G.I. Joe, and also on this poster, loads of information to kind of glean from it. First off, the Energon universe starts here. So that was the whole shared combined universe thing. That's what it's going to be called. Transformers and G.I. Joe, the new home, Transformers and G.I. Joe, Skybound, etc., new shared universe, etc., etc. So there's loads of information kind of coming out. And then also follow-up issues for Transformers 1, Duke 1, and Cobra Commander 1. And then obviously we found out later on what those were. Do you know who did the art for this piece?
This one is Daniel Warren Johnson.
Brilliant. And he's going to be on the Transformers issues, isn't he?
That's right. Yes.
Which I think everyone is very excited about.
Yeah, big time. I mean, we can get onto that when we see the image in a minute. But so this is the variant cover that dropped. And the interior page of the book itself that then sort of gave a bit more details about this shared universe and the books that are following. And what was I going to say? What's also fascinating about this is that a lot of people didn't know, but a lot of people by this point did know, because about 3 weeks ago, there was a retailer, super secret retailer call that Skybound organized, and so a lot of retailers were able to listen to this reveal of Void Rivals is gonna be this new shared universe, and you better order big. And a lot of people did, because I think they had 100,000 orders for Void Rivals. And for context, G.I. Joe: Real American Heroes was tracking at probably a little under 10,000. I don't know the final
comfortably
stats,
under that.
But at its worst, probably 5,000. So it's like it's doing very big numbers versus IDW, a Real American Hero.
I've got to say, this is also a bit of a marketing coup, isn't it? Because not only does it, obviously it's crossing over two brands, so that immediately doubles. Well, it doesn't double your audience, but because obviously there's a lot of crossover anyway. But it immediately kind of grows that audience a little bit bigger than it would be if it was just Transformers or just G.I. Joe or just Void Rivals. But it also makes you want to pick up Void Rivals because it's going to continue that shared universe every month in Void Rivals as well. So it's kind of like, hey, we've got a new comic. Let's just do this so that everyone has to buy every single issue. It's a bit like, this isn't new. Obviously, it's been done loads of times. And I've fallen into the trap of getting every single issue. Like when they used to do it with the X-Men crossovers or the Marvel crossovers, when it would be like X-Men and Wolverine and but loads of different issues at the same time, all crossing over at a certain point under the same branding of whatever that story would be. So this is like, a kind of version of that, really. But again, makes sense. And I'm going to be the sucker that's going to be jumping on every single one of these titles.
It's shrewd, because if you were kind of that fan that would just buy the main G.I. Joe book, for example, the shared universe stuff, leave that for later. By putting Void Rivals out first, that if you want to get involved in this world, that's the one book that you can buy at the moment that can get you into that world. So, maybe if G.I. Joe came out the same week as Void Rivals, I'd go, I'm less interested in the Hasbro, all of the crossover stuff. I'll just get G.I. Joe. But without that, I'm definitely getting Void Rivals. Find out what all of this fuss is about and how it's going to lead into all of this other stuff. So, I've certainly been won over by that technique, and I'm sure a lot of other people have as well.
Definitely, including Jeremy Kimberlin, who says X-Men Onslaught in the late 90s. Lol, big time, Jeremy. I was also sucking
all
in
there. Yeah.
All in. Adam S says my comic shop didn't get this. Didn't get what this was, and didn't order enough. He was mad when he found out and hadn't ordered enough for all of us G.I. Joe and TF guys. Well, he should have been paying attention to Talking Joe. Then he'd have known everything. That sucks, man. I'm sorry about that. I think my good friend Andrew Franks picked a copy up, and I read that on the morning. I was so excited. I was like, oh, he just came in and just handed it to me. I'm like, cool, and just rinsed through it. We'll talk about that in a second. Obviously, we'll just get to the end of the Void Rivals stuff, I guess. We also
here we go. The good news is, for everyone that sort of sat on it, missed out, weren't paying attention, whatever. There's been second printings announced, and this is one of the second printing covers. So you will definitely have an opportunity to get Void Rivals issue 1 in some form.
Perfect segue, I would say there, Mark, wasn't it? That was absolutely sensational. Like, we practiced this beforehand. We didn't. I love your hat, by the way. I've only just noticed this. I need to get more Full Force merch, don't I? Genius. I like it. I love this cover. I love this cover, by the way. I think it's adorable. Absolutely adorable. It's like, obviously it's a vibe on Sesame Street, Cybertron Street. Phenomenal. This Tristan says, between the collab figures, the movie crossover, and now the new comics, the merging of the two brands is definitely a push on Hasbro's part. I'm pretty sure that's the case, Tristan. Yeah, like, it feels like there is a... do you know what? I've got a funny feeling it's based on the popularity of Megatron, Hiss, and Or Striker Bumblebee. Genuinely, because I was really surprised at the kind of popularity of those figures, of those kind of sets. especially in the US, like, and especially with, like, Transform it. Like, I saw Sixo posting pictures of it, and he loves the Awe Striker. He's like well into it. So, like, I wonder if there's anything behind that, because it just seems like everything at the moment is, let's just put these two things together right now. Like the movie universe, spoiler alert, that's now crossing over. So, like, there's no turning back. It just seems like it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's obviously a big focus. You got like the movie, which is the big thing, and they're going to want to unite behind what's happening in that movie universe. And then you've got those, and whatever we're calling the retro, the collab,
collaborative,
Megatron, Bumblebee, and then we've got this happening with the shared new universe in Skybound. And also, various other places. I think we've got the role playing game crossing over and stuff. That's like
true.
that. So so it's definitely definitely in the air across all of these brands. The only place that we've not seen it yet is in Classified. And I was saying it to you, Chris, the other day.
Yeah.
Can it only be a matter of time that we see something in Classified? But that's a whole different subject.
Well, you say that, but like Classified's already hinting at it with this Dark Energon kind of comment.
Yeah.
Updates. So it's even sneaking into that as well. That's a good shout. We can thank Dr. Biggles Jones, says Supersonic Fighters Kimberlin. And also, I will say that I wonder,
Dr. Biggles Jones Classified figure.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like that could be done, couldn't it? And like Old Snake could be one they could do as like a not necessarily a current crossover, but definitely something that's happened in the past. But it's difficult with Classified unless you did something like, and this as I said it to you the other day. Thank you, Jeremy. As I said this the other day to you, I could imagine them doing something like a vamp that was transformable. So it was like Hound into a vamp that was Classified scale as like some sort of HasLab thing. I could see that happening genuinely, but only when I said it out loud did it make sense in my head. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see that. Whoa, an Hound. Oh my God. Yeah. And like, that would be pretty crazy, wouldn't it?
It would be, it'd be bonkers, but it's the world we're living in, Chris.
Yeah, it is. Get used to it. Marissa Fairburn's a good shout as well. Tristan, yeah, absolutely. There's loads, isn't there? Absolutely loads. Renegade Game Studios, Man of Action, absolutely. We kind of just briefly brushed over that, but yeah, even the Renegade Game Studios is doing crossovers with Transformers and Joe. So this definitely does feel a little bit like maybe Hasbro have had the ear of their licensees. Yeah, that's right, the licensees. So they've been able to kind of say like, maybe you want to put these two together because we're doing that. So maybe that's happening across the board now as a big thing. Motorcycle transforming Classified scale is a good shout, Tristan, as well. Yes, anything small that transforms into something, yeah, I can see that. Okay,
what's that? Sorry, I was going off on one. Go for it. The guy from Transformers, the movie that transforms into a motorbike, the fast talking one. Was he voiced by Eric Idle or someone?
Oh, Wreck-Gar,
and he was the motorbike that they had in the Dreadnoks used in G.I. Joe versus Transformers 2 from Devil's Due.
Absolutely. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. Dreadnoks on Junkion motorcycles. Oh my God, this does work. Why are we not funding this? I feel like we are funding it actually.
And at the end of the video, you can go to Hasbro Pulse. And
could you imagine? That'd actually be quite a dream.
Like a stealth, just like just like Void Rivals with their stealth launching. We have a stealth launch for the next
class
Hasbro Pulse.
My God. Adam S says, I want Classified truck with Bongo the Balloon Bear. Okay, you've won the internet today. Man of Action says that would be a HasLab I could get behind. I think it would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Like
I could see it coming from Super 7 for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. Right. Well, then we had even more information coming out of the of the kind of release of the book. This actually kind of snuck out, I think, the day before again, didn't it? But still, we'll keep it in the history books as this way around. But yeah, this kind of information that Transformers won by Daniel Warren Johnson coming in October 2023. And then obviously with Duke, we had Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley on the book. And with Cobra Commander, Joshua Williamson and Andrea Milana. Was it Milana, isn't it? It is Milana. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it's Melania, but no, it's Milana. Yeah. So, and that's going to be December and January, respectively. Now, I was confused when I first saw this because I was thinking, oh, is this a mini series? Is it like, is this going to be an ongoing? Is Duke getting his own like 300 issue ongoing comic kind of thing? And so it's going to be Cobra Commander. But it turns out these are going to be minis. Is that right?
I believe that they're planning to have what they call 4 interconnected 4-issue series. So there's going to be a total of 4 G.I. Joe books, each having 4 issues, is what I understand from the press release. Yes.
And we also get, do we also get another standard continuity off the back of that?
They haven't said as much yet. What I would expect is that there'll be these 4 kind of character focused series, and then launching into that there'll be a G.I. Joe continuity, and they're sort of describing this as like akin to like an Marvel Ultimate kind of version of the continuity, that they're going back to the beginning and sort of just trying to launch with an exciting ground up view that anyone can join in on, regardless of the what they know about the property before, and that they're kind of trying to tap into like those core elements of what makes those characters tick and what makes them the iconic version that they are. So it's like it's not going to necessarily I'm sort of reading it as like it's going to it's going to try and tap into the core elements of what you would recognize as being that character, but not being beholden to too much of what's come before.
And we will go into a bit more detail of each Duke and the Cobra Commander issue 1 as well in a sec as well. Firefly's asked a question here, might better help here. Looking for an online place to subscribe to the new G.I. Joe comics. Any suggestions? So are we talking like app kind of style things? Like are you like how, or if you're talking that you still want physical comics, then local comic store is your best option, I think, in that sense. But what would you say, Mark, on that?
It depends a little bit where he is. I think if you're in America, I don't know the best place. If you just look, if you don't have a local comic book store and you want to get it delivered to you, I don't know what the leading American mail order
mycomicshop.com is pretty good, I think.
Yeah. And so it's but ideally you're within an accessible distance from a comic book shop, and what you ideally just go into that shop, say I'd like to start a pull list please, and add these 5 comics to my list, and then they'll save them for you, so that when you go in they'll sort of go in the cupboard, pull it out for you, and then you don't have to worry about missing them. So that's a really good way of having it work, is just create a pull list that they know how many of each comic to order, and then you don't have the risk of missing out.
And alternatively,
recommendation if you can.
If you just want something online, then mycomicshop.com is a really good one. And other than that, you've got obviously Comixology, which is an app where you can kind of order comics. I imagine you'll be able to find that stuff on there too. Like
this will all be it's sort of been subsumed into Amazon Kindle now. But if you just go onto the Amazon app, you'll be able to find it.
Perfect.
But if that's what you want to do, read it digitally.
Yeah. Cool. Then obviously we had the big kind of manifesto, I guess, from Kirkman. He even did a video, didn't he, where he kind of talked about it a little bit too. But again, another a bit kind of putting a bit more like color to the kind of story, really, wasn't he? Basically,
fleshing out his mission statements. But I'll just linger on this a second on the left there. Daniel Warren Johnson. I'm not someone that would buy a monthly Transformers comic. I appreciate Transformers for what it is, but I am very much in the G.I. Joe camp. But Daniel Warren Johnson, if you've not heard of him, woohoo, you are in for a treat. This guy is on fire. He is like the hottest talent in the biz at the moment. Everything he touches is just amazing. If you've ever seen his like commissions that he does, they are amazing. So yeah, just sort of coming to a property like Transformers, it brings a lot of attention to it from people that are into comics but wouldn't otherwise necessarily pick up Transformers. And this is a guy as well that's really invested. He's doing this because he loves it. He's someone that bought and played with Transformers as a child. He's tweeted photos of his studios filled with like multiple different versions of Optimus Prime and stuff like that. So he's the guy. He's the guy to do it.
Definitely. I'm excited to see what that Transformers comic looks like, because I jumped off Transformers kind of like early on in the when they kind of went back to one again in the IDW series, and then like it kind of like they went back to one again and they started a kind of almost like a fresh new continuity, and I was in it for like 4 issues I think, and then I ended up just falling off. So I kind of want to get back into Transformers, and I'm really happy that Daniel Warren Johnson is on this, because it's very exciting indeed. Anyway, while we're here, should we talk quickly about Void Rivals issue 1? Because
why not? That's
something that we've both read. A few people have read it in the comments as well already. Again, if you don't want to know about the interior of this comic, guys, please stop listening, watching, whatever you're doing right now, because there are spoilers in this one. Now, I will say, when I first read it, when I first got it, I was like, I didn't know if we were going to get like an interconnected universe with Transformers and G.I. Joe, or whether we were just going to get a backup strip that introduced the continuity that had nothing to do with Void Rivals. I wasn't sure what to expect here. And as soon as I opened the first page, I was like, there was a familiarity to it, weirdly. Like, it felt familiar. And I think that's probably, being like, again, like reading and enjoying Oblivion Song, obviously knowing the universes of Transformers and G.I. Joe as well, even though they're not really evident in the first few pages. It still felt really, I don't know, it felt really like comfortable, warm, and I was ready for it. It was weird.
Yeah.
And I started reading it, and it was just really good. Like I was that thing where everything else just goes out the window and I'm in that universe reading it. So that's always a good sign for me.
Yeah, it's like it was super accessible and just felt almost immediately very immersive. You're just sort of there, and they introduce it's basically a 2-character piece for this issue, but and there's a lot of exposition in there, but it's done. The exposition is done so deftly that it's all about just sort of filtering through in the sort of quite natural dialogue these concepts of the world that they're in, that the rivalry between these 2 characters and their tribes, their people, whatever, and sort of just all of these aspects of that world that sort of just eke out. It's really well done, and there's some just lovely touches. Spoilers again, but it sort of starts with a crash landing, and the lead character is unconscious, and his android hand sort of
has
pulls him to safety and gets him some medical treatment, and it's got
talks as well.
It's got this personality, and they're having conflicts with his hand, and that
must be awkward, mustn't it? Especially when you know what I mean, mate. I'd say use the other hand, but it's still there watching, enjoying.
But having an android just right there is handy.
Android. Yeah. I've got to say, like, as well, like with what you were saying there about the exposition's really well done. And it is, because it's that thing where you don't just get like, I used to hate it in comics when you'd have this huge lump of text at the beginning that was just like, right, here's the universe. It's like, I was always a little bit like, I want to be immersed in this. I want to kind of like feel like I'm like there on the planet with them kind of thing. And that's exactly what it was like. It's like you picked up immediately what was going on as well. Like as soon as that other person came and they're both yelling at each other, kind of like xenophobic sort of slurs at each other, you know straight away that it's like, okay, so these are two factions that have probably been warring for a long period of time. There's like propaganda behind it. There's reasons, there's political stuff going on here. There's like brainwashing to a degree as well. From a young age, that it all comes out, and it's all like, we don't like you because of this, and we don't like you because of that. And it was like, they're basically at each other's throats fighting, and it's really like straight into it as well. And then after a while, they realize after an explosion that they are literally going to have to work together in order to get off this planet, which is kind of like they're stranded on now. So they go to try and they start working together. They start building this ship out of both of their ships, kind of thing. And then something goes wrong. Well, I think one of them is trying to do something before, then the other one's kind of saying, "Oh no, don't do that." And then obviously there's a huge explosion, and they're back to square one again. And it's like, oh great. And they slip in and out of this, we need to work together, and then having a go at each other for being the faction or the whatever kind of humanoid they are, whatever the kind of situation is. That's the other thing as well. They're wearing these masks, right? That's a bit of a spoiler, sorry, but they're wearing these helmets effectively, and I thought they were robots to start with. I thought, oh, we're looking at robots here, and lo and behold, they're not. But we'll get to that bit in a second. After that, they're like, right, we're screwed. That's it, isn't it, really? But then the other guy doesn't want to give up, and he's kind of trying to work out how to, get off the planet. The other one of these characters has kind of wandered off, and they find, what do they find, Mark?
Oh, they find a big old giant robot plane thing.
Immediately, I'm looking at it like, oh yeah, it's Jetfire.
Yeah, they find Jetfire.
But obviously, we kind of knew it was going to be Jetfire from
the poster,
the posters and everything. But Jetfire's been he's been there for millennia, and he's he just kind of they wake him up by accident. I think there was the handroid does something to this internal spark.
Yeah, they're trying to power him, power him up so that they can access some diagnostics or something.
Exactly, diagnostic 80s. And then all of a sudden wakes up, transforms. Where am I? Oh my God, how long have I been here? And because it's Jetfire and he's a scientist, he's looking at himself and he's like, what, I must have been here for it was like wind erosion and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
On him. And he's saying some crazy stuff that
this will take millions of years to do this to me.
Yeah. Obviously he aged well because he still looked good. He still looked like Jetfire. And then he just literally just ups, transforms, and flies off and leaves them there.
He's buggered off.
And then we get back to so that's it. That's it for the Transformers crossover, isn't it? Really?
Let me touch on this. I'm not big on Transformers sort of detail, but I hear from Mr. Tim Finn that there is very much a parallel to a Transformers animated episode, Fire in the Sky, which is all about Jetfire sort of being sort of frozen and discovered.
Interesting. It's good to have a little bit of Tim Finn in the background every now and again, isn't it? Just helping out where he can.
He says clever words.
He does, doesn't he? He uses all the big ones like and the. Anyway, yeah. So that's all it is really for Jetfire, and he's gone. And then they're left again to kind of get back to I guess fighting again at this point. They're done. And then they end up. I can't remember why they take their helmets off. What was the reason for that?
If he figures out that maybe they can cannibalize their suits to help fix the ship.
That's it. So I've only read it once, but it was that good actually that it kind of stuck with me. But I'd obviously forgot that plot point. So they take their helmets off, and lo and behold, they're the same species, aren't they? They're just humanoid characters. But with different jewels in their forehead, which I'm assuming will be explained, obviously, in the future. But all very interesting, and all that's the thing. It was smooth. It was like a nice contained unit of a story. It had the like the impact at the beginning and the situation that they're both in. It had the conflict. It had the big reveals. It was just a really satisfying comic issue, I think.
And Kirkman, he is the master of the cliffhanger as well, leaving you wanting more. And reading that issue and the sort of the cliffhanger on the end with them taking off their masks, it just leaves you. It left me going, oh, I want to read that next issue, regardless of G.I. Joe, Transformers, Hasbro. That's a good comic, and I want to read the second issue. So I was won over.
I wasn't. Do you know what? If it hadn't featured Transformers or G.I. Joe, I'd be into kind of reading this as a thing. But obviously, the additional extra, yes, Man of Action, it's out now. The Void Rivals issue 1 came out Wednesday. So go and see if you can find it in your local comic book store. And obviously, there'll be like you said earlier, Mark, there is a second printing because it was like so popular, which is great.
It was ordered big. It was ordered big, but which is, well, depending on your comic store, they might have missed out. But there will be second printings on the way. So if they don't have an issue, just say that, let them know that you want to get hold of it, and you should be able to get hold of a second print still at cover price. And if you're into digital and happy to read it on a tablet or whatever, then you should be able to get it via the Amazon store and the Kindle app right now.
Awesome. I would say link in the description, but it's not. Right, that's our Void Rivals kind of like spoilers. And I would before we talk about Duke 1 here, Mark, what would you give? It's like I'm back on Talking Joe. What would you give it as a score out of 10 for Void Rivals? What are you giving it?
How many Yo-Jo colas? Is there an equivalent Transformers drink?
Energon cubes.
How many Energon and Energon colas would you give it?
Everything's a cola, obviously.
Yeah.
How many Energon cups of tea would you give it?
I would score this high. I think I would go as high as 8.5. I really enjoyed it. Going into it without too many hang-ups or expectations. Almost being prepared to be disappointed. Really enjoyed it.
Samesies. I'm gonna go half better and say 9 on that one, because I was well in
quick maths.
Well in Garden City. I know. Classic McLeod's quick maths extravaganza. Okay, so going then into a bit more information about Duke number 1. It's going to be a limited series from Joshua Williamson, who's done work on DC, Superman, Dark Knight, etc., and Tom Riley, who does the art for The Thing. It tells a story you've never read before, the origins of G.I. Joe and Cobra in a world grappling with the arrival of the Autobots and Decepticons. When Conrad S. Hauser, codenamed Duke, investigates the mysteries behind the Transformers, the answers will lead to the birth of forces for good and evil that the world never imagined. Duke will be the first of 4 G.I. Joe limited series coming from Skybound, setting the stage for a fresh new take on G.I. Joe Cobra and the iconic characters that you only think you know, and knowing is, I'm not going to say it. So this is an interesting one, Mark. Do the things that are coming out of this, like the people involved, like the writers, the artists, do they excite you for this particular G.I. Joe kind of run?
Yeah, so the writer, just Josh Williamson, I'm not really so familiar with stuff that he's written, but DC have put their trust in him to be letting him write some of their heavy hitter books like the Flash and Batman and I can't remember the one of the big DC crossovers that they've had recently. So he's a big name, hot writer, and he's worked with Kirkman, which is obviously why Kirkman has wanted to pass this over to him, because he's sort of someone he knows he can work with. The artist on this one is one that I'm excited about, Tom Riley.
Yeah,
I found him on Twitter I don't know, 3-4 years ago, a while back, just from before he was, had broken in. He was just doing all of these really, really cool, images that he was putting on his Twitter feed. and I thought they were great, and that I thought that he'd had the potential to make it big. He was sort of like very sort of simple, Chris Samney ish
Right.
style of art, ultra clear, really good storytelling. And I thought, yeah, he's got the potential to make it big, and he did. He sort of has gone on to some big Marvel titles like The Thing, which have been very well received. And this top right image there of Snake Eyes, that is a cover recreation of a cover that was done originally by Andy Kubert, and we'll get onto that in
we'll
a bit.
Talk about him in a bit. Yeah.
and funnily enough, is a commission that was commissioned by my brother, Peter.
Awesome.
Because we've got a commission project where we ask artists to reinterpret classic G.I. Joe covers, and so Peter reached out to him to get him to do that one, and so it was somewhat hilarious that when when people like us or other articles and things are looking for G.I. Joe art by this artist Tom Riley to share, we see the art that we commissioned him to do for us.
That is cool, though. Yeah, that's pretty dope, isn't it? That kind of like really highlights how good that commission is as well, doesn't it? Really, a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it's a great piece, and he's a great artist. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he'll do on Duke.
Absolutely, and we've been asked by Death Valley Machine: is this going to be a new take on Duke, or more of an expanded history on canon? It sounds like it's going to be new.
Think Ultimate Universe reinvention. From ground up. It looks like we're starting at a world where Cobra doesn't yet exist.
It almost sounds to me like the Decepticons are going to bring Cobra into existence in a way.
They're going to be this shifting event that happens maybe to Earth, which sort of triggers these things. How sounds like Duke. Part of this Duke story is going to be what happens to this guy when he sees that you've now got these giant robot aliens on your planet, and so it's establishing.
I'd be chill.
His character,
no issues at all. I'd be like, yeah, it's all right, it's fine. RKW says Duke is a pretty boring character. Well, he might not be in this one. He might be super awesome. There you go. Robert H says Joshua Williamson is a pretty great writer, and he also does a monthly show on the channel Comic Pop Returns. Would not be shocked to see him talk about this book there. Yeah, totally. We want to try. I'm sure you'll try and get hold of him as well at some point, Mark, won't you? For Talking Joe.
Definitely. I mean, Talking Joe's MO is to talk comics, and as much as possible, reach out to the creators and talk to them about G.I. Joe and their experiences of the property and of creating the comics. So yeah, it would be really great to continue that in the Skybound universe and get on the likes of Josh Williamson to talk about it. So
awesome.
Fingers crossed.
We also get Cobra Commander issue 1 in January of 2024. I can't believe we're already talking about 2024. Where is this year gone? We're halfway through the year, pretty much to the day. Future. Oh my goodness. Joshua Williamson again and Andrea Milana, who Impact Winter Rook was what he's known for. In a world where Cobra doesn't exist, one man's sinister... This is where we get the Cobra doesn't exist scenario from this point. In a world where Cobra doesn't exist, one man's sinister plans to utilize the mysterious alien substance known as Energon will send shockwaves across the globe. I'm highlighting shockwaves because I'm definitely think that's foreshadowing. My first comic was G.I. Joe, and I couldn't be more excited to unite the Transformers and G.I. Joe into one universe, said Sean Makovich, SVP publisher. This line is being guided by the best comic creators in the world and features the same action-packed, surprise-filled, emotional storytelling you expect from all Skybound comics. Very excited for this one as well, Mark. And again, it's the same kind of thing, a little bit of unknown behind it. So I'm excited to see where they take it. And again, Josh Williamson seems to be one of those people that we can probably trust at this point. So yeah, let's see what he does.
And the artist is I think it seems like he or she has got is relatively new to the biz in terms of the published work that they've got. But looking at that work, it seems like seems like they got the stuff, and they wouldn't be getting a job like this if they didn't.
I just want to highlight this from Jeremy, because this is something that in my head, my favorite take on Duke was Devil's Due Agent Hauser, not Double D Agent Hauser, but Devil's Due Agent,
or Dougie Hauser,
Dougie Agent Hauser. Was that when he was kind of like almost like a CIA guy in the time that G.I. Joe was down? Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, he was like a secret agent CIA guy.
That brilliant kind of cover where he's jumping out of the window backwards, and it doesn't actually happen in the comic, I'm pretty sure.
I'm so sad that I'm so sad that I know that is issue 5 from Devil's Due back in, it would have been probably in late 2001, early 2002, possibly. He's in a black sort of Snake Eyes-ish suit, so it does look a little bit like an unmasked Snake Eyes.
That's what I think I used to. That's what I thought when I first saw the issue. I'm like, oh, they've unmasked Snake Eyes again, like in the. No, it was Duke, but I'm pretty sure if he does do that in the actual issue, he's wearing a suit. I'm pretty sure it was like.
He jumps out. He jumps out of a plane in a sneak suit of some sort. He does a parachute.
It's a James Bond thing, isn't it?
Takes off his sneak suit, and underneath is a tuxedo.
That was a cool vibe for Duke, though. I was really enjoying that for that little period before the Joes kind of got back together again. And I really like that scene in that. It might have been the next issue, or one. It might actually was probably the first issue, when they're all looking at that big screen, and it's like Cobra Commander's back, and there's that beautiful shot of hooded Cobra Commander. Like a one of the, it's technically like a, not an aerial shot, but it's like a paparazzi kind of shot, isn't it? It's like a sneaky, cheeky kind of stealth picture of him. But it was a gorgeous panel, and it was in like the computer looking in. It's just, that's one of my favorite, some of my favorite art in G.I. Joe comics. That panel, and then there's, oddly enough, when it's a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover, and it might be the second one, when they break in or they bust open whatever the ship that they're getting into, the Transformers are in, and Cobra Commander's there with all the troopers behind him, and the shot is inside the craft through the hole that they've just created, and you just see Cobra Commander and all the troopers. It's just a gorgeous like scene. I kind of wish I'd forethought that I would be talking about that, and so I could pop it up on the screen. But no, that is an absolute beauty. Yeah, CIA with chuckles. Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a quote here from Kirkman, which sort of helps explain why they're going with these solo issues rather than going bang in with a G.I. Joe issue 1. And he says that, I think that G.I. Joe's appeal is its rogues gallery. You can talk about Batman or Spider-Man having the best rogues gallery, but G.I. Joe has the best rogues gallery. G.I. Joe has like 50 to 100 characters that could lead their own series and have their own interesting backstories. And anything and everything about them could make them a definitive lead of a series that you'd be infinitely engaged with. So it's like it's dangerous to start with a series where it's like, here's 400 amazing characters, and they're going to fight these other 400 amazing characters. So we're trying to pare things down as small as possible as we get into it and ramp into G.I. Joe in a way that you can see the value and how great these characters are in the way that we do.
A lot of people, on kind of related to the whole G.I. Joe Transformers kind of shared universe thing here, like Black Genghis, hey buddy, not sure how I feel about tying in the origins of G.I. Joe directly to the Transformers. Something cool about those two universes having their own history that just happen to intertwine. Also, Anthony Romo says, I'd like having them separate and then meet up, no together origin, oh well. Similar kind of vibe there. What I would say on that is that I think they're doing it like this for this particular new thing because it's like a good way to launch, both brands at the same time. Like if they're at the same origin point, it kind of makes sense to a degree to do that. And obviously, you still have Larry's ongoing continuity, spoiler alert, which we'll get to shortly, but that is also happening, don't forget. So it's like you've got the best of both worlds in a sense, whether you can experiment to see how this hits you. If it hits you and you love it, then great. if it doesn't really vibe with what you want, you've got the Larry continuity, and that, I think, is probably one of the reasons they're doing all of this at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, and absolutely. You know, you've got Larry doing his thing, and this isn't going to be the end of it either. They're going to be doing other thing. Oh, we'll get onto that maybe in a second. But the but they have said that each one of these minis will be additive. So what they mean by that is that you can experience each mini on its own, and it should still be a satisfying meal in its own right, without you feeling like you need to buy absolutely every single thing to enjoy it. So you should be able to get any one of these minis, enjoy it on its own. But if you get everything all together, then there'll be like these, you know, smaller interconnected bits, which sort of just, you know, mean that it's like part of a nicer whole. Maybe a bit like Marvel Comics used to be back in the day, where basically every issue of it, you know, was a solo title. It was doing its own thing, but it was part of a bigger world, and they would sort of occasionally sort of dip in with one another and that kind of thing.
I imagine it will be like launched as the shared universe, right? Then you know they're in the same universe, but I don't think going forward every G.I. Joe comic is going to contain Transformers, and I don't think every Transformers comic is going to contain G.I. Joe. So I think for the beginning element, it's going to be that kind of like, this is the birth of all of this universe. And then going forward, it's like, I'm going to play in my own sandbox, and I'm going to play in my own sandbox. But then every now and again, there'll be the, you know, the things that happen. I think doing it that way, and I think that's, I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but it's very likely that that'll be the case going forward. And I think that it's probably the best way to do it, where you know they're in, like, you know, Spider-Man and Blimmin' Wolverine are in the same universe, like in the comics and stuff, but you very rarely see that crossover. But it happens, like in the blink of an eye, something will happen, and there'll be an Avengers team, and both of them will be on it. Or that beautiful one they did once, where I even remember this, but I can't remember what issue it was. It was in an issue, and he's just randomly sitting on a building looking up, like he wasn't even in the comic. Like that was just a almost like a background panel where Spider-Man was just watching as like the X-Jet flew over or something. I can't remember the details, but he wasn't in it, but he was in the universe. So I you know, I'm not saying that we're going to see, you know, the Joes are going to be doing something and there's going to be bumblebees like vehicle mode over there just like hanging out. They could do that, and you might be thinking, oh, is that Bumblebee, or is that just a random beetle? But we'll figure it out, I guess. Best of both worlds is the best way to put it. Yeah, absolutely. Death Valley Machine, big time. Okay, right. Then let's talk 301 and beyond for a real American hero. Now, it's funny because I thought this would have been revealed at the same time as everything else was revealed, but it was it was a couple of days later, wasn't it?
Like, yeah, the next day.
Or the next day, even.
It's like, oh, they've done this big reveal, but I want to know about A-Ra. When we're going to find out about A-Ra? We're going to have to wait another month. Oh, one day.
Now, like, it's here in my face.
Maybe not even one day. It might have been just like a few hours later. It was like, how can I cope?
So in addition to the Skybound Energon Universe books, Skybound and Image will also be continuing Larry Hama's acclaimed G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, picking up directly where the IDW run left off. Spoiler alert, where they're about to crash a plane this November. Hama continues as series writer for the title set in the original continuity of the series, as established in the 1980s Marvel comic book series, with Chris Mooneyham. Is that how you say his name? Or it's probably different. It's probably Moneyham or something, isn't it? But I'm going to say Mooneyham instead because I like it. Joining as interior artist.
Probably one word rather than Mooneyham.
No, I'm saying Mooneyham. I'm saying, or Mooneyham. Mooneyham. I definitely prefer Mooneyham. Mooneyham. Andy Kubert signing on for Tour of Duty as cover artist. Oh my goodness. We'll be talking about Kubert in a second as well. And Larry said, I'm delighted to be continuing the saga of G.I. Joe with the good folks at Skybound, and totally amped to be taking the G.I. Joe team to issue 301 and beyond, said Larry. Little did I know back in 1982 that I would be associated with the Real American Hero for over 40 years. Breathe that in, guys. My thanks to the whole crew at Skybound for allowing me to continue to chronicle the exploits of characters who have not aged a day, who have become like a family to me. He didn't say that in the quote. I added that bit. But yeah, that is great. It's great to hear that Larry's excited to do it. It's great to hear that he's continuing this, and I'm super amped, big time.
Yeah, and Kirkman had, great things to say, and the Hasbro team as well. So Kirkman said, "I have to give IDW tremendous credit for bringing the series back, getting Larry on the book, continuing the numbering, shepherding that legacy for years and years, and getting all the way up to issue 300. The G.I. Joe series is extremely special. That was so many people's first comic. Larry Hammer's G.I. Joe run led to countless people falling in love and becoming lifelong comic book fans. It will be really great to get him to issue 400 and beyond." Imagine.
Blimey. Yeah, that would. I don't know. Do you reckon he's got 400 in him?
Well, how? Let's say he's doing 2 a month.
He's having to do 60 issues a day to do that. No, that would be amazing. I just want it to keep going on forever and ever, but that's just the hater of change in me. Yeah, it's pretty impressive stuff. Now, what else was I going to say about this? There was something really important that I was going to say, and I've completely forgotten it because I'm an idiot.
I'll mention the trade dress is quite cool on this issue. You might not have the image of that, but down in the bottom left hand corner, it has a little, this cute little dog tag, which in very, very small lettering says 300 and then in really big lettering, first issues.
Fantastic.
300 and first issue. So it's like it's having both best of both worlds of having a new issue 1, but it really being 301. So
I think what I was going to say was about Duke on this cover, or not on this artwork. Now the rest of them are in their kind of classic kind of get up and everything. And then Duke down there in the bottom left is actually rocking his kind of classified design. So yeah, you had a little theory about this one, didn't you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to a little birdie as well about this one, and
nice.
And
raptor.
I can't speak birds, unfortunately. It was just a seagull. I live in Brighton. There's loads of birds. They know nothing about G.I. Joe. I would just say, don't even bother with that.
Don't talk
Useless.
To the birds.
Useless. Yeah, the dogs know even less.
It was literally eating a bag of chips off the floor out of a newspaper, and you're just like, so what's happening with the Duke on that cover? What's that about?
So Duke here, he's rocking his, what looks to be his classified gear. You can see his shin pad.
Yeah,
you can see the classified Duke gun as well, and I think all that's happened here is just that he's gone out and looked for his own reference, and that's the Duke that's come up.
Absolutely, that's the running theory that I'm sticking to as well.
But even if it's not that, I think it's really curious, because I think one of the things for me about classified is that the classified toy is that it's missing that comic and that story dimension to it. I mean, the team talk about storytelling, but you can only do so much with box art. And so, for me, having some, connective tissue between classified toy, where they're using like essentially updated versions of the iconic designs, which to some degree is what they're doing in the comics anyway, I would be completely open to them going down that route in ARAR and picking up some of those cues on the designs.
Totally.
Duke having a slightly different gun, or having a little communicator on his bandolier, or having shin pads, as long as that 90% of that is looking like the Duke, then that's great, and it means that it means you've got a little bit of extra excitement in the look of the characters, and you've got that storytelling connectivity back to the new toys, which I think is exciting.
Where is that information on one of the issues where it says that massive spoiler that they're bringing somebody back? Because
Do you want me to read it out?
yeah, read that out. Okay, guys, massive spoilers coming up. This is
So
this
it
is what it
said,
says in the blurb for the. Was this the Duke issue, or is this just the shared universe or Void Rivals? I can't remember which one it is.
which press briefing, I think this was the
Oh, yeah. Okay.
official PR for 301. They
Okay.
say,
Cool.
a new era for G.I. Joe begins in G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 301, with this jumping on point for new readers as your favourite characters, Duke, Scarlet, Roadblock, Storm Shadow, Cobra, Commander, Serpentor, and more, are back for new battles, new friends, and new enemies, and, in capital letters, the return of the original Snake Eyes.
He's back with just a few days to kill. Yeah, so that is the big news that Snake Eyes, OG Snake Eyes, who was brutally off panel disintegrated in way back in 280, 270, 280.
He died in 212, I think.
Was it 212? My goodness.
The original death of Snake. Yeah, Snake Eyes did in like 212.
Was it 212? Yeah, well, okay, my bad. I felt like it was like much later on in the. No, okay, sure. Yeah, so he's back. And what does that mean, do you think, for Dawn, for Throwdown? What do you think it means for all those
so if you've been following the last few issues of the book, sort of really leading into 300, you kind of know a bit more of this. And I know some people behind, so I don't want to get too spoilery, but spoilers. Essentially, we've got a new clone Snake Eyes who was introduced in like the last two issues, like 299, 300, with the memories restored from the brainwave scanner from an unspecified point in time. And so yeah, essentially we've got Snake Eyes back alive with his memories in a sort of new body, and it leaves all sorts of mysteries open. What does that mean for Scarlet, the memories of Snake Eyes in Dawn's head? What does it mean for Throwdown, who is a sort of taken on that Snake Eyes persona?
What does it mean? Snake Eyes off Wish is
the Wish Snake Eyes. What does it mean for Scarlet, who who saw him die, and he's come back within the same memories in a new body? Maybe she's getting the best of the both worlds. And what does it also mean for Snake Eyes in terms of like where what point does he remember to? How has he been influenced by some of the mechanizations of being in that brainwave scanner and being exposed to Cobra manipulation? And what does it mean for like his voice and his scarring and things like that? So there's a lot of questions there to be had about
first issue. It will be he accidentally gets like his face burnt off and his throat like cut or something in a freak helicopter rescue accident again.
Yeah, and then both Dawn and Throwdown get blown up in a helicopter, a different helicopter accident. Simples.
Done, sorted. Helicopters solve everything. Just check out the Dragonfly House lab. Sorted. Yeah. So that's a Real American Hero going into 301. Obviously, we know 304 has been written. And actually, at this stage, you could probably guess that it's probably a bit further along than that now as well. I imagine there's development going on all the way through to about 310. Although Larry does,
I think that's wishful thinking.
Larry does like to make it up as he goes along.
He does
before he's got to hand it in. So
he's not going to have a story Bible reaching out beyond the next page, Chris.
That's true. That's true.
So
I reckon he's on 306 minimum. Minimum.
I think you're wishful thinking, and I think that probably the penciler is hoping that.
Please, I've got so much to do.
Let me get ahead, please.
Please. Amazing stuff. Right. One last thing I wanted to do is come back to this question from Grant Moynier. See, I came back, Ruby.
All right, well done.
Hello, Chris and Mark. What are we hoping to see from Joe's side of things in Skybound's Energon universe? So coming back to the kind of shared you, what kind of things do you want to see, Mark?
I've got ARA, so that's in, that's safe.
That's locked.
So I've got kind of the minimum level for me to be happy there already, and everything on top is pretty much gravy. And they're going to assemble some great creators, and they're going to be able to tell better stories than I am. So I'm just as excited to find this find the story, to see the stories that they can come up with that I wouldn't think to come up with. A lot of my favorite stories are things that I'd say I'd never be able to dream this up myself. So let them do their thing. I hope that it is kept relatively separate for a lot of it, that we do get to enjoy a G.I. Joe world that doesn't have Transformers on every single page. I am a G.I. Joe fan first and foremost, and some of the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover stuff leaves me underwhelmed.
I dare you.
But I would rather be whelmed. So yeah. Beyond that, just surprise me. We've done all sorts of different things in the G.I. Joe space. I've got 10 years of Devil's Due stuff I can read. I've got however many years now of IDW stuff I could go back and reread. Show me some new stuff and some surprising stuff, and try and keep as close as you can to the spirit of the characters. And what they
spoiler alert.
Yeah. And what they've actually hinted as well, and I'll try and find the quote. Yeah, here's something that Kirkman said. Void Rivals and the Energon universe is not the total sum of what Skybound is going to be doing with the characters.
Brilliant.
There's going to be more projects like A Real American Hero that will be announcing as the years progress that exist outside the Energon universe.
Brilliant.
So what that means, interpreting that is that we can get new and exciting things that are separated from the Energon universe, separated Transformers.
Exactly. Like the Energon universe is just one aspect, isn't it, of this entire whole. So you don't have to put all of your eggs in this basket. Like there's going to be lots of options.
So yeah, if we want to do like and sort of something, getting into that's much more grounded and dark, like Cobra was, that Cobra series. It sounds like they're going to have room to eventually get to all of that stuff, so that they can get in exciting creators who sort of going to be able to tell their stories without it being constrained by this shared universe and baggage of all of this continuity. So special missions, we can have untold tales, we can have an anthology story. That would be, I've talked about this before, give me an anthology story, lots of creators telling their version of G.I. Joe, and sort of the story that they want to tell, because what we've got is this marvelous place with G.I. Joe that started in 1982. So if you were born in like the mid to late 70s up until late 80s, you'd be in that magical place where G.I. Joe is really at its height, is in on TV. The comics were coming out and amazing, and the shops were filled with the toys. So this large swathe of a generation in kind of the 40s to 50s, growing up, G.I. Joe is such a big part of their makeup and their DNA, and a lot of those people are now in creative roles in comic book writers, comic book artists. So there are a lot of people out there who have got the talent in them and the passion for this property to sort of make some amazing G.I. Joe stories. So I just hope that we're going to get be able to see a lot of those voices and a lot of the A-list top tier talent sort of being charmed over, like to Skybound by Robert Kirkman with his Skybound flute.
Friggin' Pied Piper all of a sudden. Yeah, Grant, I'd have to say for me, I think it was kind of mentioned there, but like special missions, kind of like getting into specific GI Joe stuff I'm just so excited for, like seeing like the range and the breadth of characters that can be kind of utilized. And I'm just excited that Kirkman's involved. Even if he's not writing it all, I'm just happy that he's kind of like, he's going to be, you know, on the periphery, possibly even on the shoulder of some of these you know, creators as well, maybe even as an editor in certain scenarios. So I think that, like, I feel like it's in good hands, genuinely.
Yeah.
I feel like I was excited when I heard Skybound were involved in it. And this is just like, after reading Void Rivals, man, I'm like, give me the next one. I'm hooked on this crack. So just get me the next one. Anyway, one thing we also kind of didn't mention, following 301 and beyond, Andy Kubert is going to be coming back to do some covers. And obviously, he's already got quite a few, hasn't he? Look at all them. There's even there's a few that aren't on there that I didn't put on, unfortunately, because I couldn't fit them on, and I just picked a few. I just picked a few of my faves. But yeah, he has done some cracking covers. I love the pterodactyl on the tiger cat. Tiger Sting. That's always been a favorite of mine on special missions. I remember looking at that cover and being like, oh my God, they cross over with dinosaurs in this. And I know technically the pteranodons, pterodactyls, and so on aren't technically dinosaurs, but you know what I mean? I'm just, you know, and it turns out they just crashed through a museum, and that's what happens. But it's an absolute beauty. And actually, we got that in the annual, didn't we? We got that story covered in one of the annuals in the UK. So yeah, that was awesome. But excited for Cuba on covers again?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing when you've got Skybound and they've got a little bit, they're wanting to make a splash, and they've maybe got a bit of a higher budget, and they're reaching out to top tier talent like this. It's, you know, it's exciting to have you know, Cuba coming back on, because he's, you know, such a talent. And the two Kubert brothers worked on Batman versus Predator back in the day, and that was one of my sort of gateway drugs into the wider world of comics, because that just blew my mind.
Yeah, that was wicked.
And yeah, you know, whatever he's going to do, it's going to be great. So yeah, it's great to have him back. And yeah, I think the idea is that there's going to be variant covers, which, if I understand their wording, will be easily orderable without it being like a 1 in 10 variant type thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry, and those will be just black and white variant covers of his work. So that's nice to see as well. I like it when sort of the companies celebrate the artists' work like that.
Totally. So that's awesome.
Yeah, great.
And that brings us to the end of the show. But before we do,
wait, there was one other thing we didn't talk about yet that's coming. This is the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 1, Larry Hama cut. So they are re-releasing issue 1, probably in that same sort of time period, you know, early 2024 or something, at the same time as 301. They didn't give a date, but I'm assuming around about then. And this is a reprint of issue 1. And the selling point is that it will feature Larry Hama's original unaltered scripting, which was changed by editorial in the final printed edition, and that he has griped about for 40 years. So it's finally putting it right, because a soldier's job is to do the unthinkable and be forgotten, people.
That's freaking awesome. That's fun, man. I quite like the sound of that. I'm excited to see. It'll be like 3 words different, and none of the panels will have changed at all. It'll just be the exact same comic, apart from like
it might literally be like a facsimile edition, completely the same as issue 1, but with like 3 words different. Yeah,
that would be so funny. Yeah, all spelling mistakes, says Arcade. That'd be funny. That'd be great. No, that's awesome. We also have one other thing to do before. We're not going to go just yet, so hang on after this video. We'll be back in a second. But this, just have to play you. This is amazing. Are you ready, everybody?
I don't know if you'll ever be ready.
Buckle up.
This is the end of a G.I. Joe publisher again. Mourn IDW and then baton to pass to the next bullpen, for this is the end. The start of a brand new era. Announcement finally here. The home of G.I. Joe comics. And it's Skybound, the Walking Dead guy. Everyone come down. It's the invincible fella. And it's Skybound, the Walking Dead guy. Everyone calm down. It's the invincible fella, Skybound. At Skybound.
How freaking amazing was that, everybody? Mark, thank you so much, dude, for that hilarious video. Love that very much. How long did that take you to do?
More time than probably should devote to something like that. I appreciate that I don't quite have like the vocals of Adele, so I am aware of my own limitations, but she didn't return my calls. So I had to do it myself.
RKW says instant demonetization. I love that. Yeah,
can you do a super unchat where we have to pay them?
We're gonna have to pay everybody now in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Mark, as well for jumping on, mate. That's awesome. I had a lot of fun
pleasure
doing a little bit of talking force. Yeah, it's been an absolute blast, and we'll have to do this a bit more often, I think. Now that there's comics around again.
Love it. Yeah.
Awesome. That didn't sound convincing. Right then, guys, thank you so much for joining us one more time. We'll be back with loads more content. Obviously, you can check out Talking Joe, link in the description as well, to their website, and all of the links on that website for every social and every way to kind of follow them and check Mark out and watch their amazing videos and stuff as well. And also shout out to Tim Finn as well. Yeah, I still have his Yojo Cola. I really need to deliver that. No. I'm like an hour down the road. I should just go and do it one day. Sorry, mate. My bad. Lots of fun today, but we've got loads more content coming up. We've got, let me think. Oh goodness, the interview with Super 7's Brian Flynn that I've still got to finish today at some point. The weekly's happening with Pat tomorrow. So join us for that. We'll be talking about all the stuff from Yojo June this week, like the pre-order drops and the HasLab updates. So it's going to be fun. Yeah, see you on that one, of course. See you on the next episode. You know what to do after 3.
What do we do after 3?
Well, you've got your own thing that you have to do. So maybe we tie it into that, and then on 3 we do full force. So maybe you do your thing first.
Oh, Tim does that bit. Oh dear. Okay.
So do I have to say?
Remember that.
Remember that.
Yeah, I think that's us done. But remember that.
I think that's us done. But remember that.
Nobody Bitch Talking Joe, an international podcast.
And after 3, 1, 2, 3,
full force.
Amazing stuff. See you later, guys.
Open that door! Talking doors! Where to, sports?
Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force!